again today. I'm going live with a few things. I wanted to talk about several topics here, but some really, really alarming things are going on, and a lot of folks are distracted by one thing or other. And I just kind of want to talk about some of the things that we've talked about over the year and what's gained traction and what has not, and something that really nobody is talking about. Earlier, there was actually a video in my inbox of this gentleman who edited together one of my shows from, I believe it was July or June, and I will make sure to put a link to their Twitter account. They did a great job, and they edited a video that was really good. In fact, that was AI Mind Control Victim on Twitter, and I believe their handle is at Hal_9_1000_. And they did a video compiling some of the more public statements about brain control. This is something that people laugh at. Meanwhile, while folks are talking about Romania and this drone, and of course, Article 4, them talking about an Article 5 over something landing in Romania, there are these things that just kind of popped up and then totally left people's minds. Out of all the things that I've posted and all of the things that have gotten traction, like I remember there was a video talking about how we believe that the former president was out on a boat. Hundreds of thousands of views, and because the theory really did hold some water, no pun intended, because there was no reason why if they had some sort of gimbal or whatever, essentially they made him look like he was in a secure place when it looked like he might have actually been on a Navy boat. Anyways, I'll link that video as well, but something like that gets hundreds of thousands of views, and then I go and talk about something like NeuroStrike, which if you don't know what NeuroStrike is, you need to look it up. You need to know about this, because this is going to be a part of the future conflict that we are going into. It is my belief that WW3 has already started, that we are in the very beginnings of it. And again, in history, they will look back and they will see the date of WW3 starting, who knows when, but it's more than yesterday. It's been going on for a long time. Mind you, during WW2 and WW1 and all of these, they didn't really know it was a world war at that time. In fact, it was only once people declared it. In fact, we talked about the actual declaration of what it was, I believe from one of the presidents, and it was at the very end, in 1945 for World War II. So a lot of the times people don't realize that we're in this right now in a world war. If you look at it right now, you have the world dividing, and I've talked about this many times on my other show, but you have BRICS. BRICS is actually forming, and you have 40% of the world's population, and now, to be honest, it's actually more, because there are all of these other countries that are trying to get involved with it as well, trying to go with a different currency than the one that is currently running right now. The BRICS and this whole thing that they're doing, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that's becoming bigger and bigger. And say, even if it stays at 40% of the population and doesn't go up to 50 or 60 or whatever it is, that means that 40% of the population in the future have a chance of not using the petrodollar, which again, the petrodollar, something is supposed to happen to. We are going completely the opposite direction of fossil fuels, and people don't think, well, the dollar that runs the planet, the US is number one. If that changes, how does that change and we stay on top unless something is completely changed over, unless the whole system is broken down and then built back up? It is kind of crazy, because build back better is absolutely a scary thing right in our faces. That is essentially something that is publicly out there that people really don't understand the full meaning of what they mean. To build back, you have to destroy. And that's a simple fact. They're not saying like, make it good again or this or that. They're saying build back. That means you have to kind of tear it up first. And if they considered it tear it up when it was doing well and our economy was doing well and everything was doing well, then I don't really understand. It almost implies like, oh, well, if it was doing good before this one, then are you saying that basically, yeah, we're destroying it, but don't worry, because we're going to build it back way, way better. So either way, now you see this is a long game. And I think that people are starting to understand that this was a huge thing that's been going for years and years and years. And when I mean long game, I mean long game. We're talking about this generation is now under kind of without brain control, without actual brain control, which shouldn't be laughed at. Now they are actually doing gene editing. They're doing all of these things to be able to physically be able to control people's brains. No joke. There's a ton of stuff to back this up. Governments around the world are talking about it now. Senate and Congress are talking about it. This is real stuff. Just look up neural strike. You'll see what I'm talking about. But they didn't even need that yet. And who knows? Maybe it might even be in play. They talk about platforms like TikTok being the enemy, and that TikTok could be a part of this thing, and they could literally control populations with social media, which is absolutely nuts to think about. But when you start to look around, you're like, how did the world change in about 5 or 6 years? There are things being said right now that if you said 15 years ago, you'd be considered a traitor. But now it's considered popular. I just posted a video over on my Twitter of a young gentleman, probably 18, 19, 20, but it's again in this kind of group, in this new gen, that I cannot believe the way that they think. I've told you guys before, my daughter we had a bunch of her friends and they were all hanging out and they were talking about the left versus right. And in fact, their definition of somebody on the right was basically somebody who had problems with colored people. Essentially, that R word, they basically said that was synonymous, that it's the same thing. And they go, that's just an accepted fact in our school. Like, that's what people call them. They don't know anything about politics. They don't actually follow. They just kind of get the murmurings from whoever is teaching them. Again, it is mostly in schools and things like this, or at least that's my opinion. But as far as this video that I posted, was this young gentleman who says that he just moved to the suburbs from San Francisco and said that there were American flags everywhere. And he said that it made him not feel safe. Now, if you think that this is an isolated thing to be scared or to not feel safe around the American flag, it is not. And it's something that's actually been pushed lately. And it is something that I cannot believe that is spreading. We consider now to be something of a patriot is now taboo. And I also tweeted that the other day, and I'm surprised people really don't see that. If you say that you are a patriot, it is now considered bad. You could get yourself on a list. It's absolutely nuts. If you are proud to be in your country, then people look at you like you're a freaking weirdo. I don't know where this is coming from. And again, I think that there is exterior forces coming from the outside that are doing this, because there's no other reasonable answer than something massive is going on right underneath our nose. I actually did an intro on my other show that people didn't get. And actually, I think more people, they since they didn't understand it, they thought it was a bad thing. But I did an intro essentially showing the subliminal messages like eat, eat, sleep, consume. And it was from the movie They Live. If you've seen They Live, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then it shows a sequence of the kind of the pictures going from, normal to crazy. And it shows the happy family and the crazy family, in the streets with fire. And then it says, wake up, basically waking up from these subliminal messages. And again, people, I don't think got that. They just see subliminal and they're like, subliminal message is bad. I get it. But my point with that is that movie has so much more relevance than people realize. And I think that the message there really holds true to today. There's this system that is essentially pushing out a message and is so repetitive, which I believe it was some very, very bad people in WW2 that said basically, if you tell a lie long enough and if you tell it over enough, people will start to believe it. And that's essentially what's happened. But I think that is in combination with something else. There's something else here that has people just completely devoted to the wrong causes, to the wrong beliefs, to the wrong morals, to the wrong everything. And that's why we can never see eye to eye. I've also talked about, of course, relating, say something like Xi and China, and how it looks like modern day Genghis Khan because of the tactics that they are using to try to get that number one spot. As far as opening up supply lines around the world, as far as spearheading BRICS and trying to change the currency, as far as doing all of this and all of these different ways of infiltration, even having W2, a famous spy that actually went in and basically recorded all of the movements of most definitely the signs were there, and the back, what do you call it? The back end of the story here, if we were to look back in history, is all being set up. As far as brain control, people laugh at it. They think it's science fiction. They think it's a stupid thing. But right now, there is actual science being done. There's actual experiment being done to not only be able to control people, but to control populations. We are talking about massive control, and this is no joke. Once you start looking into it, it's one of those holes you go down and you don't come out of. And I'm absolutely blown away that we covered this in detail, and it just kind of, went by the next day, and people went back to the next kind of big distraction. This is something that people need to pay attention to, especially with events, weird events that we've been talking about, like October 4th. Not so much weird, but this big event coming up with all of our cell phones are going to be having this huge alarm. It's supposed to hit every single phone. They are supposed to be hitting more phones than last time. If you remember, only certain phones got it. With the presidential one. This one, they said that they are really trying to go for 100% of all of the cell phones, an alert that basically pops up on your phone, and you have to press a button to cancel it. Mind you, you have a front-facing camera, and who knows what that could trigger. Who knows if it's upstream surveillance, like Edward Snowden said, or if it's just an alert and practicing for something else. Again, that system in itself, if you just say, hey, this is what it is, well, it's a practice for a massive, massive event. If some sort of emergency happened that happened essentially all over the place nationwide, and they needed to send out an alert to Hawaii, did not get any kind of cell phone alerts, didn't get calls, didn't get texts, didn't get any of the emergency alert stuff, but yet every phone in the United States is supposed to get this one on 4th. It's absolutely wild that they did not have any kind of warning, yet they did have a fake warning 2018 that made people throw their kids into me, and they would think it was a fire. Let alone it would have woke up people that could have gone up there. But a cell phone warning and any kind of alert, turning off the water, all this other stuff, it's all a bunch of BS. And it's so BS, and there's so many obvious clues, like they almost left their calling card on everything, that people are still talking about it. They were absolutely engrossed with it over that week. At the same time, we have these weird things going on where everybody's talking about this, but yet secretly laws and things are changing right underneath our noses. Heck, you've got states that are essentially trying to arrest people for, basically abiding by the Constitution. So we have huge, huge events that we need to start paying attention to. There's a lot of dates coming up that people are worried about. I would say if you are worried about any of them, like September 23rd or any of this, I would say I wouldn't give too much flack to those, but at the same time, if you are worried about that, that's even more reason to start getting prepped and have a basic plan just in case something happens. The Hawaii volcano erupted. I could, of course, hit a lot of the headlines. I'll be hitting a lot of those tomorrow on my regular show. But I wanted to point out and just send you down this hole, because once you go down it, you won't come back out the same. And more people need to know about this, and people need to share this out. We're talking about the existing stuff that is around us could literally participate in controlling us. That's absolutely wild. And they are literally in a long game. And if you understand what they're trying to do with kids and people and growing people in a freaking pod, you have to understand that we have to fight not just for our generation, but we also have to fight for our next generation. We have to speak up for 2 generations down. I have kids. I guess if you don't have kids, that it would be easier not to think about that next generation. But, a lot of people don't think about anything beyond what we're talking about here. Even if nothing happens in the next 10 years, in my lifetime and in a lot of your lifetimes, if you've got more than 10 years left, you may see a completely different world. They say you will own nothing and be happy. That's because of some of the things that we're talking about with Neurostrike and everything else. So please go look at that. AI, of course, is the new nuke, and they're talking about that in the form of this. You wouldn't have to have anything explode. You wouldn't need any damage to happen when the nuke can hit your brain. That's what's so crazy about it. So I'm going to be talking about this in the near future, and I'll put some references for you. By morning, there will be something attached to this thumbnail. You need to go look at it. You need to go look at those links and refresh yourself on all of this stuff. I actually talked to one of the persons one of the 3 authors of this big paper on neurostrike, and he ended up calling into our show. We should also attach that because you should go listen to that. We're talking about whole populations being controlled by a science that is no longer theoretical. It exists. So people really need to wake up to this, and I mean right now. Please make sure to go check out our website. Again, with the October 4th and all of that stuff, I love Bobby Brown's opinion. If you have messages going into it, marfooglenews.com/offgrid and grab yourself one of those bags hacked from nearby, which now apparently is happening anyways. Also, go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. I would highly recommend getting your vehicles protected from EMP, and you get a huge discount at the same time as supporting our local channel. So please make sure to go check out our website. Share us out. That's more important than anything. Share us with a friend or family, or put us on one of your social medias. Let us know if anything happens after you do. If something negative happens, let us know. Email me at adam@marfooglenews.com. If you have hints or tips or tip line, email me adam@marfooglenews.com. We'll see you guys later. Follow me on Twitter @Marfoogle, and I will see you guys later. Please be safe, be prepared, and join us tomorrow on Marfoogle TV. We'll see you in just a bit. Thank you, mods, and make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends